Hi, Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to Dr. Shamila and fellow friend. My name is Nuratika Viti Jamal. My magic number was 261469.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurul Hussein. My magic number is 261453.
My name is Umi Amira binti Maknom. Magic number 261435.
Comparison of public administration means a study of the ability of government and public administration in planning and implementing policy in a country. The comparative focus on public administration is how governance is done. The resource used in comparative perspective are more primarily to say that CPA or comparative public admin is studying machines in government in country. Public administration comparison have evolved over the last decade and it has introduced elements in comparison.
So today I would like to highlight about the country selected between the developed country, Singapore, and also we choose a developing country such as Malaysia. So developed context mainly a country who are practiced in more advanced in the scope of technologies, higher human potential, development index, and also the high quality of life if we compare to the other country. So I will clarify about the four main things in the socio-economic. So the first one, I will talk about the total of population. So the total population in Singapore by 2020 will collect as a 5.69 million of people. So the second one, I will talk about the GNI per capita. So the GNI per capita, or in Malay we call as a pendapatan negara kasar per capita. So here is the total amount collected by business and nation people and have been divided by the numbers of population. So basically in 2019 they collect GNI per capita as recorded $59,590. In 2018 they collect $57,900 and based on 2017 they collect 54,320. So the third one, I will explain about the unemployment rate. So based or according to the OECD, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, someone who above a specific age not being paid employment or self-employment but currently searching or able to work, so they are the people who are called it as unemployment. So in 2020, the rate of unemployment were 4.38%. In 2019, they mentioned that 4.11% of unemployment, and 2018 they recorded as a 4.02%. Next, and the last part is poverty rate. So Singapore do not have a specific or official poverty rate or line to measure the rate of poverty. So it's difficult to find the correctly percentage of poverty in Singapore. But Singapore state that any 4-person household that make less than $1,250 Singapore per month considered as they face with the poverty. So based on my research, some of the fact about the poverty in Singapore, because they mentioned that 62% of people do not satisfied with their income. Second, the Singapore wealth gap is one of the largest, or in Malay we call as jurang agihan pendapatan yang sangat besar dalam negara Singapura, and most expensive city to live in, and lastly, no official poverty line. So I can conclude that the high cost of living in Singapore cause someone do not able to live as usual, and they lost their job and eventually lead to the lowest standard of. The second one, I will explain about the developing country, and we have chosen a Malaysian country to be explained. So, the developing country briefly can be explained as a country who being a lower in terms of technologies, lower of human development index, and they have a poor quality of life. So, in the Malaysian context, Malaysia actually have been struggle together, such as the commitment shown by the private parties, industrial bodies, and government to make sure that Malaysia can be least in the developed country soon. So I will explain four main things about the socio-economy. The first one, I will explain about the total of the population. So based on Department of Statistics Malaysia (DOSM), they recorded the total amount of population in 2017 as 32.02 million people. In 2018, they recorded the amount of 32.38 million, and in 2019, they recorded the amount of 32.65 million. So the increasing or the factor that make the number of population increase is because the increasing of the birth rate and the decreasing of the death rate. So the second one, I will explain about the GNI per capita. So, in 2019, Malaysia recorded the GNI per capita around $11,200. Next, due the unemployment rate, in February 2019, Malaysia recorded the unemployment rate in 3.3%, increased by January 2020, recorded by decreased by 3.2%, and after that being increased back in August 2020, we recorded by 4.7%. The increasing numbers of unemployment rate is due to the pandemic COVID-19 that give more impact in our economy. Next, for the poverty rate, Malaysia now is still keep on study about the poverty line income in Malaysia, whether we want to proceed with the new line of PGK, the amount of 2,280 ringgit Malaysia, or still consider with the line of the 2016 apply a previous year with the rate of 980 ringgit Malaysia. So if we compare between these two amount of rate in PGK, in 2019, they mentioned that Malaysia have been recorded 5.6%, about 441 household who are being as a poverty based on the rate of 2,208 ringgit. But in 2016, the rate become 0.4%, about 24,700 household who have been as or called as a poverty people, due the reference from the numbers of PGK with the 980 ringgit Malaysia. So it can be concluded that the life standard of living in Malaysia nowadays in a decline situation, because now the lack of spending of people due to COVID-19, and also some of people who have not have a job and unemployment. So this directly will affect their purchasing power, and their standard of living can be decreased.
Now I will be explaining about politics and administration between Singapore and Malaysia. Based on the Westminster model, Singapore is a republic with the parliamentary system of government. Singapore is governed by the president as the head of the state. Prior 1991, the president has been named by the parliamentary. However, as a result of 1991 amendment to the Constitution of the Republic of Singapore, the current president will be elected directly based on the voice of the people. Each elected president will be given a term or 6 years only to serve the people. For your information, the position of president is only symbolic because the government power is at the hand of the prime minister. In a democratic national society, the role of people in the national political arena through the formation of government is carried out through the election. In election, the people elect their representative to rule, as in the case in Malaysia. In fact, the implementation procedure is the same, which is to use the district system in every democratic party in every election. Okay, now in Malaysia, under the administration of the constitutional king, With Yang di-Pertuan Agong as the head of the state, Malaysia is a country that follows a system of parliamentary democracy. As we all know, the king will be chosen from among the 9 Malay rulers in rotation in the next 5 years. Usually, Yang di-Pertuan Agong will act based on the constitution and the Prime Minister advice, except in certain matters at Yang di-Pertuan Agong discretion. Meanwhile, in terms of politics, the main foundation of the parliamentary democracy system in Malaysia is the participation and involvement of the people in the process of governing the country through election. People engagement as voter is very important in deciding the governing government. To ensure that these elections are conducted fairly, the Constitution provides that the establishment of this election commission is free from the government control. It is headed by the chairman and 4 members appointed by Yang di-Pertuan Agong. There are many factors that shape the election result, including the position of the candidate, the strength of the political party, and the policy of the ruling party of government.
So now I will explain about the regional bloc. Regional bloc is actually the regional trade agreement between two countries or more. The motive of regional trade is to encourage free movement of goods and service across the borderline between the country. So based on Ministry of Trade and Industry (MTI) Singapore, Singapore has been joined the European Union Singapore Free Trade Agreement (EUS FTA). So it can be concluded that Singapore and also European has been have a important partner. This is due the 2018 bilateral trade in goods going to 150 billion dollars Singapore. Singapore business will get a lot of achievement and benefit when this country try to improve their market access, eliminate custom duties, reduction of technical and non-tariff barriers. So, therefore, with this agreement, it will drive the economy of the country to be towards more developed and productive in achieve the maximum profit from the trade activities.
And in my part, I will explain the system administration in Singapore and in Malaysia. So system administration in Singapore is using the parliamentary republic. So a parliamentary republic means a system that the government in which the minister have an executive branches elected from the legislature to responsibility in a legislature sector. This parliamentary system is categorized as not significant expression of power between the executive and legislative branches in Singapore. Why the president in Singapore is the head of a state control elected by the people, but the president in Singapore is not have a big responsible or not have a big role in the country system of a government. Why the prime minister or the Singapore cabinet has a big responsibility in managing the administration under the leadership of a prime minister. So in Singapore, having a Ek Dewan. What is Ek Dewan? The Ek Dewan system is a system that has only have a one hall in parliament. So the comparative or comparison in Malaysia, system administration in Malaysia, we have a parliamentary democracy. So in Malaysia, we have a two hall, which is the Dewan Rakyat and Dewan Negara. We call the Dwi Dewan, the dual system. So in Malaysia, we have also the Prime Minister, and we have also the Yang di-Pertuan Agong, which is the constitution under the YDPA, Yang di-Pertuan Agong. Different in Singapore, which is the Singapore they have a president, but in Malaysia we have the YDPA. But in Singapore, the president is having a small role in country, but in Malaysia we have YDPA that having a high level of stage in YDPA in the country, which is the constitution of YDPA. So that's all from me. Thank you.
So, I will continue for my part, which is significant issues affect the country. And they are divided to three main issues or three sections, which is politics, social, and also economic. The significant issues in politics in Malaysia is about elections. Nearly since the landmark election, a great deal has improved, where Najib Razak, the former prime minister, is also involved a corruption investigation, and they also cancelled project in Malay China seems to be going on. Furthermore, human rights advocates argue that the government is used the pandemic as a pretext for oppressive restrictions. People were detained for questioning the country's handling of the crisis on well-being. Mahathir has said Parliament has been silenced. The new Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin suspended the attempt of the new government to hold a vote of confidence. Muhyiddin Yassin political party is the United Malaysian National Association or UMNO. A letter from Muhyiddin Yassin demanding that the UMNO strengthen ties with the media. As a citizen, we hope that the government of Malaya not to put back the legislation that make fake news an offense. The bill was intended to avoid propaganda but raised the silence of opponents in newspapers and media. While political issues in Singapore is about Singapore general elections. Singapore held its general election as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and for the first time opposition parties won the historic supremacy. Vote while the pandemic of COVID-19, voters must wear a mask and were issued with a glove in polling stations. In addition, the e-poll cards offered the recommended 2-hour voting time ban for the allocation for electors through official polling hours. Flight to the status quo, Singapore's 2020 general election raised concern as to whether the leadership of the 4G who has confidence of the people of the regions. The electorate, especially young voters, is increasingly persuaded diversity and fair competition are the key element of good governance. By extending the mandate, voters understood and expressed their preference for the ruling party technocratic skills, but popular sentiment suggests PAP did not solve problems sufficiently beyond the bread and butter issues. Next is significant issues in social in Malaysia. Social issue in Malaysia is about drug abuse and addiction. Drug misuse is a complicated problem and has become a severe public health challenge in Malaysia. Illicit alcohol use and drug abuse continues to plague communities around the world. Peer power and interest are the key contributors to sustain addiction in Malaysia. In Malaysia, peer influence and interest are significant contributors to sustain addiction. Malaysia varies from other areas of the world where sustained addiction is primarily due to family causes, parental behavior, family relationship, home climate, and economic circle. For an example, the social pressure to engage to be accepted and to be part of the social circle, particularly in teenagers, drive them to adhere to their peers and to begin to seek drugs. That's how it generally begins. The tendency to use drugs as a tension coping mechanism is also on the rise in the number of drug users among the people. Meanwhile, social issues in Singapore are despite harsh section, there is already a rise in drug addiction in the Singapore. Despite strict narcotic regulation and good dissuasion measure by the government, drug addiction continues to be an issue in Singapore. We have seen posts online or view YouTube videos of the most drug raids by the National Narcotic Bureau CNB. CNB is responsible for organizing drug eradication effort in the region. Therefore, drug misuse and prostitution in Singapore are continuing. The latest estimates from CNB reveal that new substance addicts remains large. Although there is a global improvement in Singapore opioid epidemic, there is still a record high numbers of drug use. Next is significant issue in economy in Malaysia is about unemployment. Unemployment is one of the current problems being debated by higher education researchers. College and university students also face unemployment after investing precious time and resources to obtain educational benefits. Strong unemployment rate among graduates in Malaysia. Incompatibility in the orientation of higher education institution and in the demands of the job market. The economic aspect is also the reason why recent graduates are unemployed. They are expected to have English skills. They will need to get their interpersonal skills to minimize the number of unemployed among them. While economic issue in Singapore is about unemployment, the unemployment rate in Singapore is rising. More than 20,000 workers are laid off. The unemployment in Singapore increased for the last September, but the rise was lower than in the previous month, as soon as the nation reopened due to COVID-19. There are also signs, however, that the labor market dynamics will stay poor in the middle of the protracted economic slowdown. As a conclusion, there is substantial difference between emerging countries and developing countries as developed countries are increasingly growing, while developing countries are evolving as developed countries. Developing nations are the first people to be